Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar for TN, which is going to be about dual enrollment. My name is Sarah Marrero, and I am the coordinator of College Access Communications at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. And I'm really excited to be here this morning to talk about dual enrollment and all of the ways that it can help really to open doors for our high school students and help them to get a head start on college and ultimately a head start on their career. So we have two wonderful guests this morning with us who are here to share their expertise. So first, I'd like to introduce Victoria Harpool, who is our Senior Director of Strategic Engagement at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. She brings a wealth of knowledge about creating opportunities, especially with dual enrollment, that support our students across Tennessee. And I'm also really excited to have Miss Jana Stephens here today with us. And Jana is our program coordinator for the Dual Enrollment Grant. So many of you all who are working in high schools with students probably have lots of students who are using that Dual Enrollment Grant. So it's a fantastic resource for our students, especially when it comes to understanding how those post-secondary opportunities work, how to make those work financially for our students. And Jana is an awesome resource here with us when it comes to understanding exactly how the grant works and how it can help our students as they continue to pursue those early post-secondary opportunities. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Victoria to get us started this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me and letting me be a part of your Friday. Um, so, like Sarah said, Victoria Harpool. I am in our policy shop and I am our K-12 liaison. So, I work closely with the State Board of Ed and the Tennessee Department of Education. So, that's kind of how I fit um, into this not being directly related to the grant or on the access team. So that's kind of why me in this space is I work really closely with our K-12 partners at the state level on policy around dual enrollment. So I'm going to share my screen. And Suzette, you can definitely interrupt me from the chat if there are questions. So let's see. I am not as used to WebEx, so let's see if I can share this with um, without having some. Oh, now you've seen all the slides. Okay, you guys see that? Okay, so Victoria Harpool. Um, so just wanted to start us off with a high level, and you guys know this, but I want to show you some numbers on why dual enrollment is so important. Um, First off, students that participate in dual enrollment are more likely to complete high school and they're more likely to enroll in post-secondary. And that is from national research. It's also from our Tennessee research as well. What I have in the bottom is we do a look at the college going rate. So that's what CGR is down there. And we looked at the high school graduating cohort. So students that graduated in that year and directly enrolled into post-secondary. So got there 21, 22, and 23. Um, the percent that participated in dual enrollment, and then so 70 in 2022, 23, 78.8% of them went to college, enrolled in post-secondary, as compared to the full cohort. And the difference is pretty striking. There's a 22 to 25 percentage point difference between those who participate in dual enrollment in Tennessee and they're going to college compared to just the full cohort. So what we're talking about, the work that you're doing with students in this space is very impactful. And so always like to start off with like why is it worth doing this? It's extra paperwork, it's extra time with your students, uh, but it has very, very tangible outcomes for them. So always like to start off talking about dual enrollment with that. Jana's going to get into all the stuff about the dual enrollment grant. The reason why I have this slide for you here is everything that I'm going to talk about, the data is the dual enrollment grant data. We do know there are some instances where students participate in dual enrollment without using the dual enrollment grant. There's a number of reasons for why that might occur. A student is undocumented. Those kinds of things happen. But just so that you know, the data that I'm going to be talking about is pulled from dual enrollment grant data. So if you see maybe a little bit something different from what you've seen from the Department of Education that's using data from students' transcripts, this will maybe slightly different. Other thing I point out here is I have 2022 kind of highlighted. There in the data, you're going to see a jump and an exciting jump, but where ninth and 10th graders are starting to engage in TCAT dual enrollment. So that's kind of the couple of caveats. Again, Janet's going to give you all about the dual enrollment grant. This is just so that you have a little bit of an arms around the data. Um, so dual enrollment grant participation has exploded and we're super excited about that. So I have 2014-15 there just to give you kind of a grounding point about where we were 10 years ago or just 9 years ago. You can see 21,000 students participated in dual enrollment. We have over doubled in less than 10 years. I mean, it's 100% change, or we've doubled. Let me not try to math on the fly. I taught government and economics, not math. But you can see the changes that are happening here. More students at universities, the LGIs, you can tell that they kind of started now that they weren't under the Board of Regents system, so they started growing. So the TCATs, and then the other thing is the TCATs. You can see students were participating some um, before we get this change in who can participate, so freshmen, sophomores. But I mean, it's booming. You're looking at, I mean, a year over year in 21-22, you had 5,700. The next year, you had 11,000. So it is a significant boom that's happening there. We're actually doing some research with the Tennessee Education Research Alliance around what's going on with TCAP dual enrollment. Um, oh, okay. Somebody can't see it. Um, I'll keep going, but Suzette messaged
Yeah,
me.
keep going.
Okay,
I can see it. I'm guessing
okay,
Jana and I think Suzette can see it too.
okay.
So yeah.
But yeah, just to give you guys a sense of what's going over time. The other thing I put down there is the total in millions that the state spends. The state's really invested in this, and Janet's going to show you how to access those funds through the dual enrollment grant. But your state really puts a lot of funds behind this, and they just have increased when and how students can access the dual enrollment grant. So when I talk with other states about um, the options that they're able to provide to students, as far as funding goes, we really are blessed in how much we can say, all right, no, let's be more inclusive. Let's open this up. Let's talk about who should be participating, who's going to get benefits from this, and not have the same kind of concern that um, there's not funds for students. Now, dual enrollment grant doesn't cover every cost that could be associated with a student participating. Totally understand that. But for a little bit of national context, this isn't the situation that other states are working with. And I took the dual enrollment grant participation and, nope, okay, and looked at, nope, okay, that's me. I was trying to move the full screen around. It did not work. Um, looked at what's going on in the public sector because the vast majority of students that participate using the dual enrollment grant do so in the public sector. Um, you can see that super big jump with TCATs, not surprisingly, given where the legislation changed and the opening that up. But I mean, it's growing across the board. Um, UT has stayed relatively small, um, but yeah, we're booming in the opportunities that are available to students and the students that are taking advantage of it. And to be quite honest, they do that with you all's assistance. That's how they're able to access this. So it means you guys, with if dual enrollment participation has doubled, your work on dual enrollment grants has doubled. So I couched this and I realized that this has meant a shift in time and work for you, but the payoff for students that has started with just really, I can't undersell sell how important this is for them. Um, I am available to take any questions right now or wait till the end, but that was the end of my slides. The other thing I'll say is the recent change in state board policy that now makes in the Hope GPA calculation, dual enrollment now has the same weight as advanced placement. So we no longer kind of have that push and pull between I really want to be valedictorian and AP gets me more points in the GPA, but dual enrollment may have some different benefits for the student in, they're not great high stakes test takers and, of course, over the semester having assessments may work better for that student anyway. To let you all know, the GPA calculation for Hope has changed the weighting to where AP and dual enrollment are now equal in the additional weighting that they get.
That's good to know. I think a lot of school counselors and college access professionals hear that from students, right? That they maybe are steering away from a dual enrollment class and would rather do something like advanced placement or IB because of that
Yeah,
GPA weighting. So,
we really want students to make the best decisions for themselves. And
totally.
everybody has a different path. So not having that be a hindrance for students thinking about their Hope GPA versus the coursework that's available and what works best for them. Um, Honestly, dual enrollment is the EPSO that they are most likely to get credit on. So we don't want that to stand in the way of other choices that students have.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, thank you for showing us all of that. It's really interesting to see that kind of data, even as someone who's not necessarily a data person. For me, it's still, I mean, there's no denying the huge change and differences that making the dual enrollment grant, more available, and even those changes with LGIs getting more involved is it's just really interesting to see. So obviously with such a change and so many more students interested in taking dual enrollment, it does, like you said, it does increase the time that we spend with students and the paperwork. But to see how big that point-to-point difference is in that college going rate, I think is huge.
Yeah.
I did have a question for you
Sure.
that just came up while you were talking, Victoria. With that college going rate data, do you know if they're looking at students who took dual enrollment at any time during high school, maybe just their senior year? Like, do
I
we
will
know
have to
anything
check.
about when they
I
took those?
think
Okay.
I think it's ever dual enrollment.
Okay.
But I can circle around with the folks that ran those numbers.
Sure.
The other thing I'll mention is why we're talking about partners, is that you guys have a host of options for who to partner with. So get post-secondary partners that are going to meet the needs of your students. That is within you all's determination as the on the K-12 side of who you partner with. So at least from the state perspective, we don't have um, a preference for any over the others. Figure out what works for you and your students. So sometimes that comes up of, do we have to partner with fill in the blank? Are we having great experiences with, from our perspective, partner with who will work best for your students?
Yeah. Yeah. It can make a big difference. Yeah. That's great information. Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm excited to hear a little bit more about the money part of things. I think this is usually where people have the most questions, or maybe there's, like you said, a lot of paperwork, like you said earlier, Victoria. So maybe not paperwork because we're using TSAC Student Portal. But regardless, Jana, we
It's
would love to
certainly
hear a little
effort.
bit.
It,
Yes, certainly
it's
effort.
certainly effort.
Effort is true. Tracking students down and getting them to complete the forms that they need to complete online is quite a bit of effort. So we would love to hear a little bit about dual enrollment grant, paying for dual enrollment, how that's changed. So, Jana, we'd love to hear a little bit about that from you.
So I will say, starting out, this program was all paper.
Oh my
The dual
goodness.
enrollment grant has been my baby from inception. So since 2004 till now, I have been the program coordinator for dual enrollment. And at one point in time, we literally had paper applications, and I had
Oh
to
my goodness.
literally process payments through all manual processes. So to say that dual enrollment has progressed over the last 20 years is an understatement.
I'm sure
And
you're thankful for that.
just in the last 10 years from Victoria's numbers, we can see how crazy the dual enrollment grant and dual enrollment students has progressed. And from the lottery funded programs, some of the other programs kind of level out and kind of not become stagnant. I don't want to say stagnant. They level out and have pretty consistent number wise over the years. But dual enrollment is the only lottery funded program that has increased every single year, by a significant number, I should say. Not that hope or promise and those things don't increase, but dual enrollment is the one that definitely increases significantly every year. So on that, let me share my screen. Can everyone see it? Can y'all see that? Okay.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with WebEx very much either as far as presenting goes. This is new for me too, Victoria. So I do want to give you all some information on Dual Enrollment Grant and touch quickly on the Middle College Scholarship as well. So the Dual Enrollment Grant, like I said, has evolved and changed over the years. And with that, we'll say that the grant application deadlines has always been a huge thing with dual enrollment. With school starting and schedules changing and students changing their mind, we've had a lot of students that were missing the grant application deadline. So beginning with the 24-25 school year, the grant application deadline changed to June 30th of 2025. Notifications have been sent out regarding this change. And there was a lot of confusion at the beginning, thinking, students had missed the deadline. But the deadline is June 30th of the academic year. So for 24-25, it's June 30th, 25. For 25-26, the application deadline will be June 30th of 26, et cetera, et cetera. And starting in the 25-26 academic year, legislation was passed to essentially separate the TCAT dual enrollment grant and GPAs from the 2- and 4-year college university GPAs. So what this essentially does is creates two programs. There's a TCAT dual enrollment and a 2-year 4-year TCAT, or 2-year 4-year dual enrollment. And that's for GPA calculation purposes. So for instance, if a student does not maintain the 2.0 GPA that is required for eligibility, if a student loses the grant at a 2-year 4-year school, they can still remain eligible at a TCAT and vice versa. So if they lose it at a TCAT because they haven't maintained the GPA, then they would still be eligible at a 2-year 4-year school. So that is going to be a big change for all of our dual enrollment students starting fall of 25. Let me just add to this that students are not grandfathered in. So if a student loses eligibility before fall, then they've lost eligibility. They will not be grandfathered in if they lose eligibility prior to July 1st, when this program change goes into effect. And Sarah or Suzette, if y'all have questions and need to interrupt me, yeah, feel free. Go ahead. I'm okay with being interrupted.
You're good. Just keep going. You are good to go.
Clicked on something and I can't make it. There we go. So students who are eligible for the grant, 9th and 10th graders can only be eligible if they are enrolled at a TCAT. Then 11th and 12th graders can be eligible at either a TCAT, 2-year, or 4-year institutions. So Victoria showed us the jump in the TCAT numbers a couple of years ago, allowing ninth and 10th grade students to participate and become eligible at the TCAT. So that did, like the number showed, that increased that enrollment at the TCAT. So we see students are participating and taking advantage of that for sure. So the grant covers the average tuition at the community colleges plus a 5% access fee. That's a lot of information to say, here's your dollar amount. It's written that way because tuition and fees change. So as opposed to saying, here's, legislatively writing, here's the dollar amount you can pay, and then having to come back every single year, it was changed to give us TSAC, the permission to say this is the award amount changing every year by saying it's tuition plus the access fee. And that is for the public colleges tuition and fee amounts. And that is for the first 5 courses. And then at the TCATs, those students can be paid, again, it's the tuition and that access fee for up to 1,296 clock hours. So students can essentially earn a TCAT credential and have a semester of college paid for while they are still in high school. This definitely gives a student a huge leg up once they've graduated high school and they're going on, being able to take advantage of getting some of those basics out of the way. Everybody's going to have English, everybody's going to have those math classes or those history classes if they're, at a college or university. So that definitely gives those students that leg up on maybe some of the other students. There was a point in time in legislation where it prevented some of the private colleges from charging anything over what the dual enrollment grant would pay. This note is just in here for you all to know that those private colleges can now charge what their tuition and fees are. However, the grant is not going to pay any more than that average tuition and fee at a public college or university. So keep that in mind when you're working with some of the institutions who you partner with, that those private colleges, they are going to cost more likely. But I do know that there are some of the private colleges across the state that have locked in their fees for dual enrollment students. So that's definitely a plus, and not to sway your students from attending those private colleges by any means. I've noticed that a lot of them do work with the dual enrollment students to kind of keep that cost lower, to encourage students to attend there for dual enrollment as well. So students, like I said, that is for the first 5 courses, locks in that average tuition and fee access. Once the student has been paid for those first 5 courses through the grant, students can still be paid for 5 more courses, but the grant is only going to pay up to $100 per credit hour. At one point in time, the program did reduce the Students' Hope Scholarship once they were paid for more than 5 courses. It no longer does that. So Students' Hope Scholarship is not reduced for any course that a student is paid through the dual enrollment grant. This is just a chart of what that fee and what that access fee looks like when you figure it all out based on hours. The yellow highlights what an average student takes as far as a 3-hour course goes. This year, that amount is $582.75. Again, that's for a 3-hour course. And this is what the TCAT award amounts are. I would say the average TCAT enrolled student is the 81 to 135 hour rate. Typically, again, I mean, it could be anything, but the average grant for the TCATs typically is the 452.55. So a few things just as reminders, or hey, did you know? Citizenship comes up a lot and whether a student is eligible for the grant. So we have a lot of students who seem to be undocumented or are here on certain visa types who are maybe have just a green card or exchange students. So TSAC and TCAC do not get into the business of determining citizenship. That's not our job. we leave that to the powers that be that know more about those things. Luckily, we don't have to get into the weeds with that. That the Tennessee Board of Regents has developed a policy that TSAC does adopt as well for determining which students are eligible based on what their citizenship status is. So if you specifically have a student at your school that is here on ABCD visa, I'm making that up totally. But if you have a question about a student, you are welcome to contact me. I do have a copy of the TBR policy, or you can contact the institution that you are partnering with for dual enrollment, and they have a copy of that policy as well to determine whether the student meets those requirements. A couple of triggers for that. The student has to have a social security number. They have to have an alien registration number or an ITIN number. That's a tax identification number. So those are three kind of triggers to look for if you're questioning whether a student is eligible or not. They do have to have one of those numbers, and it has to be used for completing the grant application. So you want to look out for that. As far as being eligible for the grant, student simply has to meet the admission criteria of the institution that they are attending. TSAC legislation took away any kind of ACT or GPA requirement. So whatever the institution that you've partnered with has as far as policy for admissions, that's what TSAC says. Hey, this is what you have to meet. We no longer have that ACT or GPA requirement for admission. And the GPA for continuation, again, that is a 2.0 GPA from the college. That is not a combination of the student's high school and their dual enrollment courses at the college. It is simply, or it's only the GPA from the institution that the student is taking those dual enrollment courses at. And it is a cumulative GPA. So it wouldn't just be one institution, then the next or the next. It is a cumulative from semester to semester. Again, starting in fall of 25, though, the TCAT GPA will be separate from the 2-year 4-year college's GPA. So it will be two separate GPAs that will determine whether a student can continue on with eligibility at one institution type or another. For you high school users, just want to remind you that there is a report in FAST that helps you keep track of your dual enrollment students and have they done the application and what's their status. So if you are logged into FAST, there is a reports tab. And it's that under activities and then scholarships. And then again, there's one grant, a dual enrollment grant application report there. That's going to give you your students, the institution that's listed on their application, their status, their award amount, whether they've been paid or not. It gives you all of that information on that report. So don't forget that's there. With the application deadline being moved, it does help you not have to fret and track so quickly some of your students, but this is definitely a way to make sure that your students are doing that application. And there are some institutions, just for the record, that set a priority deadline that may say, if you get your application in by this date, then we will not purge on X date because we know you're grant eligible. And some of those things are institution policies, some are not, but just keep in mind that there could be priority deadlines for the institutions. So that report is there for dual enrollment. Let's jump to middle college real quick. Just a few
Hey,
things.
Jana.
Uh-huh.
Hey, before you jump to middle college, we had a question about that report in FAST.
Yes.
So is the information updated immediately, or is there maybe a little bit of a lag time before the students show up in FAST?
No, it's immediate. So if a student does an application, like if I were to go in and do an application right now and you go run this report, I should show up on your list. If the
Okay.
student is not on the list, there's a problem.
Okay.
Typically, the biggest issue why that student is not going to be on a report is they put the wrong high school. So
Oh,
just for the
okay.
record, this report is from Hunter's Lane. It's a made up report. It's just, I'm not really a student at Hunter's Lane.
Okay.
But it's only going to show you students that have listed your high school on that report. So again, the number one problem with students not appearing on a high school report is that they picked the wrong high school.
Okay. And does the student need to do the application again if maybe that's the issue, or can they go in and edit it?
No. So right now the student, I forget, we've had lots of system changes back and forth of what students can update or not update.
Oh, you know what? Somebody else in our chat said that she thinks that they can edit it.
I think they can
So,
too. That's what I'm trying to
yeah.
remember. I think they can go back and fix it. If not, the institution that you've partnered with, the students attending, they can fix the high school. Or
Sure.
obviously give us a call, give the call center a call. We can fix the high school that's been put on the application. And then again, that would be immediate. As soon as that application is corrected or the student has done an application, you should be able to see them immediately.
Okay, perfect. And then one more question about this. Someone in our chat asked, and I'm not super familiar with FAST, but I'm just going to ask what she said. She said, "Does FAST have the grant number of each student?" I'm not familiar with a grant number. Do you
No,
know
I know
that,
what you're saying.
Jana?
So I think the
Okay.
question is, does it have what or how many courses a student has taken?
Oh,
What grant number they would
sure.
be on for award amount? No, it does not. What you see there on the screen is literally what would pull up. I can
Okay.
add that. Let me make myself a note real quick. So I can have our team take a look at it and see what it would take to get the course number added to that high school report. I mean, I see how it's beneficial in helping
Sure.
students know if a student were to look at their account in the TSEC student portal, they can see how many courses they've been paid. So it may be that you have to go in and look at the student's account with the student to be 100% sure how many courses they've been paid for, but I will add that to my list to have our team take a look at adding that to that report.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. We are good to go for now if you
Okay.
want to keep rolling.
So the middle college scholarship, there aren't a lot of students to participate in middle college. I mean, there are enough for it to continue to be a program, and numbers have fluctuated. We've seen changes that go up and go down, and some of that has been because of how the program is administered and how it works. So to be eligible for the middle college scholarship, students do have to be a high school junior, so the fall semester of their high school year, their junior year of high school, sorry. If they have a 3.0 high school GPA at the end of 10th grade, they can be eligible. Students do have to enroll full-time each semester, and that has to be at an eligible institution pursuing an associate degree. I say eligible specifically here because even though some of the universities offer associate degree programs, this middle college scholarship is only available to students who are at a community college. Austin P, for instance, I know has a big middle college program. Unfortunately, because of the way this program was legislatively written, Austin P is not an eligible institution for the middle college scholarship. So students do have to maintain a 3.0 GPA to be eligible for the middle college scholarship. And this program's deadline has not changed. Students do have to submit that application by September 1st to be eligible for middle college. The applications in the TSAC student portal. The difference with this in dual enrollment, again, students have to be enrolled full time, but the award amount is $2,000 per semester. And that is obviously different for middle college students because of the enrollment requirement. We've had some interpretation changes as well, in that students can be paid for the summer semester through the middle college scholarship if they are enrolled full time. Again, this program requires full-time enrollment, and that's one of the biggest triggers for this program is that full-time enrollment. Again, here are the eligible institutions. It's basically the community colleges. I will say that Pellissippi is not listed on this. They are technically a community college here in Tennessee. Pellissippi State does not participate in the middle college scholarship program. They're an eligible institution. They just don't participate in the middle college scholarship. They do participate in dual enrollment, but not the middle college program.
Jana, do you know about Columbia State? Do they participate?
Yes, they
Okay.
think they do. I'm not sure why they didn't get added here, but I'm pretty sure that they do. Here's the thing with middle college. So the institutions have to have what is called a memorandum of understanding. I'm sure all of you know what that is, an MOU with the high school, that they are participating, and so that MOU has to be between the local education administration and that institution. It can be the whole county, it can be high school specific, but that MOU has to be there for the high school the students to be eligible at that institution. So just because maybe you have an MOU with Chattanooga State, and then you have some students who change and want to enroll at Cleveland State, they may not be eligible for the middle college scholarship if that MOU is not there. So just keep that in mind if you have students looking to be middle college scholarship eligible. Again, I'm pretty sure Columbia State is a participant. If whoever asked that wants to email me just to remind me, I'm pretty sure they're there though. I just didn't get them on my list. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, no big deal.
So for more information, I'm sure you all know that the College for TN website is out there. Definitely a plethora of information for you all. Use this website. We ask you, please use this website and send your students here. So if you go to College for TN and then the Tennessee Financial Aid, the Dual Enrollment Grant is listed there. Middle College Scholarship, and all of the other agencies that, all the other programs that our agency administers. One more thing on middle college, it skipped my mind a moment ago, and I forgot to put a slide in on this. So if a student is middle college scholarship eligible, they cannot participate in dual enrollment at the same time. Students are eligible for one or the other. However, if a student is participating in middle college and they change their mind, like I don't want to be enrolled full time, or or they lose the middle college scholarship because they didn't maintain that 3.0 GPA, they can turn around and then be eligible for the dual enrollment grant. They would start over basically with a clean slate. Anything that they did as a middle college student would not count into GPA calculation for dual enrollment grant purposes. So keep that in mind with your middle college students. They are not 100% one and done, if they try middle college and can't maintain that full-time enrollment, they can turn around and be eligible for the dual enrollment grant. So that's still an option for them as well. So Robert Biggers, I'm sure most of you know Robert. He is my supervisor, my direct supervisor with the all things TELS. So if you have TELS questions in general, Robert's there for information. That's my contact information there as well, my email. He and I are both happy to help if you need assistance with your students in any way. Let us know what we can do for you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Jana.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, some that I wrote down myself, some that I compiled from others in the chat. So I just wanted to move to a little bit of a question and answer part of our time together. So while I'm talking and asking questions to Jana and Victoria, if anybody else has questions, feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat so we get to all of those. The first question I had was, do you all know of any options for homeschool students or private high school students when it comes to dual enrollment grant? I know that they might be using different types of EPSOs that look like dual enrollment, but maybe aren't. So could either of you speak to that a little bit about homeschool and private school students using the dual enrollment grant or dual
We
enrollment in
have
general?
lots and lots and lots of homeschool students and private high school students that take advantage of the dual enrollment grant, and even middle college scholarships. I would say that the number of homeschool students participating in the middle college scholarship has grown because they do have that leverage to be able to enroll full time more easily, maybe than a traditional high school student. So yes, homeschool students are eligible for the dual enrollment grant, the middle college scholarship, and their award amounts are the same as regular traditional high school students.
Okay, that's great to know. I love that. Okay, another question. Would the students still have the full amount of the dual enrollment grant money if they moved from middle college to dual enrollment, regardless of how many college courses they had taken as a middle college student? Or does
Yes.
that depend? Okay.
Yes. So anything a student does as a middle college scholarship student, if they stop participating in that program and move to the dual enrollment grant for whatever reason, again, they start out at zero for the dual
Okay.
enrollment grant. Because it's two separate programs, they are completely different from each other. Whatever student did as a middle college student is not going to affect the number of courses the student can take through the dual enrollment grant or their GPA calculation because they are separate programs.
Okay. That's good to know. Another question for you, Jana, when you mentioned the whole process of an MOU for a virtual high school, we have somebody who works with virtual students. So they have students in all different counties across the state. Do you know if they have to have an MOU with like every institution, every TCAT that their students could possibly want to go to?
Yes. So the MOUs are specific to the institution. Just for clarification, TCAT students are not eligible for the middle college scholarship because they are not seeking an associate degree. It's the community colleges only.
Okay.
But the MOU is institution high school specific. And it could be county. So it could be that, let's call it this, just because this is easiest for me. It could be that Nashville State has an MOU with Davidson County School Systems, period. I don't think that's the case. I think that most of the time it is Nashville State has an MOU with Hunters Lane, has an MOU with McGavock High School, has an MOU with Nashville Christian School. Some of the bigger counties are going to be more MOU high school specific as opposed to county specific. Some of your more rural counties may be a whole county with the MOU, but with this virtual school, it's going to have to be that institution with each with the virtual school is going to have and it would be an MOU specific to whatever institution the student is going to attend. It's not a general
Okay.
MOU.
In the MOU, sorry if I missed this, Jana, but the MOU is just for that middle college scholarship. So the dual enrollment grant, they don't need the MOU.
I think Victoria may be able to correct me on this. MOUs are out there for dual enrollment as well.
Okay.
They're there. However, specifically for the middle college scholarship, I work with the institutions and I have to see the MOU specific for the middle college scholarship because
Okay.
just the way the program is written. The MOUs I think are already out there for dual enrollment, and that part has been out there for a long time, and probably more so aside from dual enrollment grant purposes. That MOU is out there. Again, Victoria may be able to answer that better than I am on that part of it, but specifically, middle college scholarship has to be more specific on the high school itself, I should say.
Okay, that makes sense. And then one more question about that middle college scholarship. Can you say one more time who is eligible and not eligible? I know you mentioned they have to be a community college.
Yes.
Um,
So students who are high school juniors, so they have to start the middle college scholarship program when they are a high school junior, attending an eligible institution. And I say eligible institution as opposed to just a community college because for right now, the way the program is written, the only institutions that are eligible are the community colleges. Um, I don't know of one that's not necessarily not eligible. There are some schools that participate in the middle college scholarship program and some that don't. And it fluctuates year to year. Um, and part of it is that MOU thing, I think. Um, Sometimes it's not, but eligible institution, aka community college, that's where it stands at this point. The universities are not eligible.
okay, good to know. Very good to know. Okay, another question for you all. When it comes to, giving advice to our students about dual enrollment options, sometimes we obviously have students who maybe could use the dual enrollment grant. Their school offers dual enrollment classes, TCAT dual enrollment, or associate degree, normal college credit courses. But if we have a student who's interested in dual enrollment, who might want to participate in dual enrollment, but isn't sold on the idea of going to college, so they're kind of going back and forth. I'm just wondering if you all like, how would you counsel a student like that in that kind of a situation if they're not totally sure that they would even want to pursue post-secondary education? How would you maybe approach that kind of a situation?
I can start, Jana, if you want.
It's fun. Mhm.
So exposure is kind of your best friend on getting students to enroll. That college going rate stuff that we see students who participate. And our data team did check it's ever participated in dual enrollment. So even if they did it younger, even if they didn't do it their senior year. Um, so I would talk with them about, are they academically prepared? I mean, we don't want to put students who can't be successful. Um, into a place where they're going to have a really poor experience and then say, oh, okay, well, for sure, college isn't for me. So thinking about, is it TCAT? Is it a 2 year? Is it a 4 year? And what subject area is it? I was really, really strong in English and history. I taught government economics in high school. Math, I should not have been doing. I should not have been doing college algebra earlier. So I would also be cognizant of where and what course uh, you sign them up for. Let that be a very deliberate conversation about where their skills are, so that they can get some exposure, but want to have a positive experience for them so that it doesn't essentially ring true every fear they ever had that, nope, I'm totally not ready for this. So where and what would be my questions for the students? 2 year, 4 year TCAT, and what subject area?
And I agree with that a lot too. In some cases, I think even with where more specifically is the course being taken at the high school, with a qualified teacher, or is it taken at the actual college itself? Um, because I think the teaching levels on those, even though the qualified teacher at the high school can teach those college level courses, may be a little different than a professor at the college itself teaching. So if a student's wavering on, whether they're ready for or want to take, um, if it specifically is taught at the high school and it's a different level of teaching and still gives them the high school atmosphere, but gives them a taste of what that college course is going to look like. A more timid student may not be ready to be thrown to the wolves on the college campus. But if it's taught at the high school, it still gives them that taste of what I have to look forward to in college, as far as what is expected of a college student. And if you're what's my perspective, and sometimes what I say to students is, what's it going to hurt if you don't end up going to college? You've gotten to take some college courses, you've gotten those out of the way. In 2 years from now, you may change your mind. You don't know, but you have the opportunity. Why not take advantage of it? Personally, I wish someone had pushed me in high school to say, hey, these college classes are available. I think personally it would have pushed me to go into college right after high school had I had that opportunity. So just sometimes I think making students aware that the classes are available, and like Victoria said, whether it's TCAT 2-year or university, there's different levels of what is available, and that has grown significantly for students and what is out there. So um, just being that presence for the students and the opportunities that are available, I think, is definitely a plus in helping them decide, do I or don't I?
The other
Yeah.
thing I'd throw in is modality. Is it an online course?
Yes.
I think that can really matter for students, especially if it's asynchronous and so it's something that they have to do on their own time. Does the student have the maturity or the time management skills to do that? That's harder for me as an adult. So that's not a knock on a 17-year-old to have some time management problems or need to be working up those skills. So I would say the other thing to consider is the modality. Is it going to be something that's face to face with a teacher? Is it going to be online, but it's synchronous where it's happening at the same time? Or is it asynchronous where they've got to go through it at their own pace, which can be really good or can um, be problematic. But yes, I'd say matching
Definitely.
that with the student would also be important.
Sure. Those are really good points. And I like too what you said, Jana, about it can be a good way to almost ease a student into the idea of college while still keeping them in an atmosphere that's comfortable if it's a course that's taught at their high school. So I think that's a really good point. Last question that I have for you, just as we wrap up, are there any like common misconceptions that you hear? I know you all maybe don't work a ton face to face with a lot of students and parents, but are there any like common misconceptions or kind of dual enrollment myths that you hear? And I'm just wondering if you have any advice about things that we usually hear that aren't quite right about dual enrollment.
I have a couple, some things that just popped in my mind. One of the biggest things I hear a lot is my student um, took 10 classes already through the dual enrollment grant. They plan on going out of state. They can use their Hope Scholarship for high school classes. And that is not true. I hear that quite often. Well, they don't plan on, staying in state. Why can't they use their Hope Scholarship money now? Unfortunately, that's not how it all works. Once a student has been paid for 10 classes through the dual enrollment grant, they are done as far as grant monies are concerned. Now, a student can take as many dual enrollment courses as they want, and then, that their high school allows or that the institution will allow them to enroll. It's just whether the grant is going to fund those courses or not. So once they've been paid through 10 courses through the grant, they are done as far as monies are concerned through TSAC.
Interesting. Okay.
That's one of the biggest things I hear all the time.
That's good to know. Very good to know.
Um, Mine would be to be really cognizant and make that strong relationship with your partner in college for math 1010, English 1010. You're probably with those in the general education, you're probably good to go. That's the courses have to articulate, so they have to get 3 hours of credit. But thinking with the student about if I take astronomy, might be like a really light their fire passion class. If they're not going into astronomy, that may count as an elective. Like it will count. They will get the 3 hours of credit,
Sure.
but it may not count towards their major. So just be cognizant when you're scheduling students, have that good relationship with, that's why I think the MOUs and the relationships you build with that post-secondary institution that your students are working with is really important so that my only thing is when a student gets to college and then like thought they were halfway through their degree in history, but you had
Yeah,
to start taking 3,000 level classes. So you had so many 1,000, 2,000 level history classes. But for your major, you had to keep going. That the rigor had to increase and change. Anyway, I would have those conversations if you have questions about more specialized courses outside of kind of biology, history, math, um, as to how that's going to articulate for the student.
that's a
I
great
like
point.
no surprises for the student is so that they get everything that we promised them. They'll get the 3 hours of credit, but does it move them that much closer to graduation? It is the hours. They absolutely get them. But thinking about if you have a student that's starting to take that many, um, start talking about what they might be majoring in so they can have a good understanding of how far that's moving them through electives versus their major.
Sure. That's an excellent, excellent point. My background before I joined THEC was in academic advising, and I had more than one student who ran into something like that, and it is kind of a tricky conversation to have. So that's a great point to talk to them about that ahead of time. So. Okay, well, I think we've gotten to the end of our questions and really in perfect time. So could not have planned that any better. Thank you, ladies. Um, so I just want to say a big thank you for being here. I know that you both feel very passionately about this and you've done a lot of work on a macro level, on a micro level to make sure that dual enrollment is accessible for our students. And this is a huge help. I know that I learned a lot today about dual enrollment. So super thankful for you being here with us and sharing your expertise. So we will go ahead and end our recording here and archive this webinar. And I just want to say thanks everybody to our participants and to our panelists for joining today.
Absolutely. Y'all have a good Friday.